Good morning, folks. So I took my razor for a ride this weekend. It did awesome, but as usual, every ride I've got to rebuild the portals. So this is going to be a video addressing all the issues I've had with the portals. And if you'd like to see some supporting information, look in the description. I'm going to include all the emails I've sent to Super ATV and their correspondence back with me. That was back when they actually replied to my emails. And I'm going to include some other things in the description. So if you're looking to buy portals, read this review and read the description. Some questions you might want to ask Super ATV before you buy your portals, as they have a lifetime warranty, right? So the first problem I had with the portals when I got them out of the box is these caliper brackets that adapt the generic portal box to whatever caliper of the bike. They sent me ones that were not specific for the Razor Trail, which I get. It's not a very common bike. Not many people buy the 50-inch, but when I got them, my brake pad was hanging out about a quarter of an inch past the caliper. I told them I had an issue with it, and they said, yeah, whatever, it's fine. You know, they're like, we're working on it. Okay, so about 6 months later, they did finally make a new mold for these and send them to me. The reason I was so concerned about it was because these slotted rotors are huge, and they eat through brake pads already. With half your, not half, but about 15% of your brake pad material hanging out past the rotor, I was going through pads like insanely fast. So they took care of that. Also, I have broken 4 of these caliper brackets. I broke so many that they just started sending me, every time I tell them I broke one, they'd send me a whole set of them. Because look how thin that is right there. And that's cast. Okay? So they sent me a bunch of these, even though I keep breaking them, whatever. A lot of times they would break because a stick or a rock or something would get in here, and I get something's going to fail. But one time I literally just broke them hitting the brakes on a flat trail, and that was when the portals were brand new, so there's no way they were already weakened or anything. So that's an issue. The next issue I started having was cutting gaskets. So this gasket, as you can see, it's all the way around the box, and they say torque it down to 60 foot-pounds, yada, yada, yada. But as you can see how wet all this is? And sand sticking to it? I didn't clean it just for the purpose of this video. You see all that wetness? See how there's gear oil on that bolt? What happens is, not here, but on the other side of this bolt hole, in here and in here, on the inside of the bolt holes, the case is paper thin because they wanted to keep this compact to fit inside a 14-inch wheel. So they made the case really thin there. What it does is it cuts the gasket. Oh, you're thinking, oh, it cuts the gasket on the inside. That's no big deal. Wrong. It lets oil into the bolt hole. There's no seal back here, and there's no seal back here, so the oil leaks down the shaft of the bolt out the back. Still not a huge deal. It's a really slow leak, right? Well, oil can leak out. What can get in? You're running the portal on the trail, it's a little warm, hits cold water, contracts, there's no vent, it'll pull water through the bolt hole into the box. I change my oil every ride because this is a $3,000 investment, and I like changing oil, it's my thing. But if you let that water sit in there, you're going to toast your portals. Okay? Oh, another issue I forgot to mention, when I first got these, I had a ton of contamination in my oil. And it was more than I thought was acceptable for braking oil. I told them about it, they were very concerned, they said, oh, you must have over-torqued these bolts that don't have nuts on the back and blew out the aluminum inside of it. I sent them a picture of the threads, which were perfect because I did not over torque it. And they're like, oh, okay. I guess the metal in your boxes is normal. Which is probably the case because I never had an issue with the gears, but they did break in and there was a lot of metal. Okay. So the next issues I started having, was they sent out a new spec for these nuts. So my original nuts was just a castle nut and a thrust washer, not a thrust washer, it's a big washer. And I don't remember the exact specs, but the specs said torque it to 125 foot-pounds, say, in the original manual. Okay, well, I did that, and then they released a new spec about 6 months later. I have all the emails, but and they said you need to torque these things to 200 something foot-pounds, like an insane amount of torque. So I'm like, all right, they released that for a reason. People are probably having issues with these splines. So I torqued all of them with a giant ass torque wrench to that exact torque spec. Next ride, bing! Axle shoots off. Shear the threads right at the hub. Wheel could have flown off and really hurt somebody. Luckily, my uncle heard the ding and was like, dude, your axle nut's missing. So we limped it back onto the trailer, ruined that ride. Called Super ATV about it, sent them an email. They didn't even respond to my email. They just sent me a new axle shaft in the mail. And when that new axle shaft or output shaft came, it came with these new flange nuts. And I torqued them all to that new spec, and so far so good. However, the next issue I started having is on the other side. On this side, for whatever reason, the way the harmonics work with the torque being applied this way, or I don't know, some kind of witchcraft, my nuts really like to loosen up. You see how the nut is jammed against the cotter pin? Like it's trying to loosen itself up. This has happened so many times, even with the new torque specs, that frequently this nut will shear off the cotter pin and get super loose. Then that kind of destroyed my splines in here. So I had to buy all new rotors, which come with this hub piece, which has the splines. That was not cheap. And then I kept happening over and over again to the point where the wheel almost flew off one time, ripped off my brake caliper, had to buy a new brake caliper, new line, very expensive. And I mean, this kind of stuff happens on a ride basis. The only reason I still have these portals on the bike is because nothing comes close to giving you the performance. Oh, you can't see because the center cap. Maybe I can get it off. In the front, I've actually had to put a hardened, what is this? This is a, not a cotter pin, like a hitch pin, basically. A solid, high strength stainless steel pin, because this front one loves to shear off cotter pins, even at the new torque spec. So a lot of really annoying problems with these portals. Well, as you may have heard, the Gen 2 just came out. They have literally addressed every single issue I've complained about in the Gen 2, which is suspicious, right? Because if you sell something with a lifetime warranty that has all these issues, you should probably warranty it, especially if you're going to admit it has all these issues and completely redesign the damn thing. The only issue the Gen 2 does not address is the cutting gaskets issue. I intend to address that because I bought some of this, some exact same thickness gasket material they use. I measure with a veneer caliper, and I'm going to cut my own gaskets out of this high temp exhaust stuff that is supposed to be good for, bolting an exhaust header to head. So hopefully, I don't need the high temp part, but hopefully it'll be more cut resistant, because this is like a paper kind of almost rubberized gasket. So I'm hoping that'll fix that issue. I also go through tons of seals, and their seal kits are pretty expensive. But I mean, with the kind of riding I do, you can't blame them for that. So long story short, Super ATV has not responded to like my last 5 emails about the nuts loosening up, about my shafts, my splines are all screwed up because of the nuts loosening up, and cutting gaskets. And it's not like I'm the only one having these issues. I mean, I get they're tired of dealing with me because I beat the crap out of my stuff, but I maintain it really well. I don't think there's another person who changes their gear oil in these boxes every single ride like I do. Maybe there is, but so they're probably tired of dealing with me, but it's a common problem. Literally everyone I know with portals has issues with them cutting gaskets. Like, it's a major issue, and they didn't even bother addressing it with their Gen 2, because from what I can tell, the Gen 2 uses this same back half, and that's where the issue is. This is where the case is too thin. The Gen 2 gives you a new front cover, it gives you a new hub, it gives you a bigger shaft. They even say in the Gen 2 ad, a bigger cotter pin. Oh, why would you need a bigger cotter pin? Maybe because they're designed wrong, the nuts loosen up. Also, you see that spacer down in there? The Gen 2s don't use that. When I first saw that, I was like, God, this is stupid. You never see that on another automotive thing or anything. No one uses a spacer to center the hub. That's dumb. It should be a press fit. You should need a puller to get this off. For some reason, they didn't want to do that. The Gen 2 has that taper built into this, so it's not going to have the nut issues or the spline issues. So they know they have problems, and they're just deliberately ignoring me, which kind of pisses me off, because I give them a ton of awesome advertising. Like, I reviewed my portals and all this stuff. I mean, the fact that I'm still running these pieces of shit, even with all the problems, tells you how great they are. Nothing comes close to giving you the performance of this. I've never broken an axle because the gear reduction is right here. The portals are amazing if they would just be reliable. The maintenance I have to do with these portals is insane. However, the benefit you get from them is even more insane. I just wish that they would stand behind their lifetime warranty. Something else that's really grinding my gears is when you send them an email, they get an email back that says, oh, we will respond to you within 24 hours. Da, da, da. So I gave them a week on my last email, which is like a 3-paragraph long thing detailing all the issues I could remember with the portals. I think I forgot a few probably. And it's been a week and no one emailed me back, which is just like, why are you going to have an automated system tell me you're going to respond within 24 hours if you're not even going to email me back? Like, what? So that's very annoying. What I'd like to do is find a way to upgrade to the Gen 2, because even though it's going to add probably an extra 10 pounds per wheel with a giant shaft and all that stuff, I really would like the peace of mind of having the bigger shaft, because I've broken a shaft and because my splines are kind of screwed up. So I really would like to upgrade to the Gen 2, even though it's not necessarily addressing one of my major issues, which is cutting gaskets. Let me think if there's any other thing I need to tell you about the portals. Oh yeah, I'd also like to know if the Gen 2 makes it any wider, because the case is more reinforced, this piece is more reinforced, and the shaft is bigger. So I want to know if the Gen 2 is going to actually make it any wider, because I really can't deal with that. This is already, I mean, you see where the center line is? There's where the wheel mounts. It already makes the bike so freaking wide and hard to steer and stuff. I'm considering, I would never put power steering on a bike, but I'm considering putting the heavy-duty Super ATV steering rack, just because I'm worried I'm going to break my steering rack, because these things are so hard to steer with a regular offset wheel. And also, it's not like I'm running, 40s and I'm having these issues. The biggest tire I've ran on here was a 34 Outlaw for a little while. I usually run a 33 BKT or, a 33 BKT skinny. So yeah, I do some stupid stuff and I'm pretty hard on my stuff, but I'm not out there with some giant maw crawler bike with 30,000 pounds of stereo equipment in the back on 40-inch tires. So I don't know. These portals, they're awesome, but I think they were intended for someone who doesn't actually ride their bike. Just look at it. And this gear oil issue, I am getting so tired of changing these gaskets. I mean, you can just see it seeping out all the way around the box. I tried everything. I tried putting a bunch of grease in the bolt holes when I put it together, just to kind of help, seal that if some oil does get in there. It doesn't work because there's constant change in vacuum and stuff because these things aren't vented. The water will work its way in there if there's any leak anywhere. So yeah, Super ATV, I hope you actually watch this video. You probably won't because you're too busy making millions of dollars selling your Gen 2 portal boxes that you took all my feedback on and made. I'm sure you had everyone having the exact same complaints, but whatever. I'm not mad or anything, but yeah, email me back. That'd be awesome. And let me know if there's a way I can order an update for this. I know you guys had the issue with your axles that were garbage, your Rhino axles. So you let everyone update for like a good deal or something. So yeah, do something like that for us. That'd be excellent. But yeah, more portal maintenance issues.